Hello there and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be having a look at probably one of the classic kung fu movies, definitely one that is in high regard and really well renowned from the Shaw Brothers studio, and that is Five Venoms, otherwise known as Five Deadly Venoms. I'm reviewing this from this luxurious Shaw Brothers Blu-ray box here. I've got through quite a number of the films from this now, still a few more to go, but we'll be looking at the Five Venoms here today. I mean, I know like the Shaw Brothers did, I mean, as we all know, if you've looked at any of the videos on my channel, they did some really classic, amazing kung fu movies. But I think Five Venoms in particular is definitely one of their most well-known. It's definitely one, usually from the Shaw Brothers catalogue, if then people are new to Shaw Brothers, this is usually one of the first ones they check out, along with sort of maybe like 36 Chambers and things like that. I mean, this is one of these kung fu movies that is a must-see. It is a must-watch, and it's a bona fide classic when it comes to kung fu movies. Which, oddly enough, when you're looking at the film, sort of, I mean, I've seen it many, many times. I've watched it again recently, and when you do watch this film, there's not really an awful lot of kung fu in it. There really isn't that many sort of fight scenes per se as such. There is fighting in it, of course there is, but it's not really sort of every 10 minutes there's a fight, every 10 minutes there's an action scene or anything like that. Made in 1978 and of course starring the Venom mob, hence the film that gave the group of actors their name, directed by the amazing Chang. This film has become a favourite among many kung fu fans and fans of cult cinema. So we have Kwok here doing the lizard style. We have Chien as Scorpion, Mang as Toad, Wei Pei as Snake, and Wei Pei is sort of, he's not really one of the Venom mob. He sometimes gets tarnished with that brush, but he's not one of, like, when you think of what the Venom mob are. Wei Pei is not, I mean, you'll recognise Wei Pei from films such as Young Master, Magnificent Butcher, but he's not really sort of classified as one of the Venom mob. So he's not really regarded as such. So we have Feng here as Centipede and Sheng. Members of the Wu-Tang Clan were hugely inspired by this movie, along with Quentin Tarantino, even paying homage to it with the Deadly Fibre Assassination Squad in the Kill Bill film. So this film does have, there's an army of fans for this film. I will get to Crippled Avengers hopefully soon because I absolutely love that movie. I've reviewed I've reviewed a couple of Venom mob films. Flag of Iron I've reviewed, and that's sort of classified as a Venom mob film. I think why this film is so lauded is because it's a kung fu film with a sense of mystery, like the idea of masked fighters not knowing who they are and our lead having to get to the bottom of it to discover the truth and what's going on. And there's that air of mystery about this film, that sense of intrigue, and I think that's why people like it. I think it's the premise of this film that really does attract people and why it is regarded so highly. I think it's the actual plot itself that makes the film the classic that it is. But it doesn't follow the typical "you killed my master, therefore you must die" type of plot scenario. It means, as it states in the book, that with this book. Sorry, I've just lost my train of thought there. With the book, that comes with this box set. The Venom mob, somebody pointed out, because I've read that book, somebody pointed out that it's almost like the Venom mob was sort of like Cheh's version of a boy band. And in many ways, I can sort of see where they're coming from with that statement, that analogy. Like the Venom mob having trained in Taiwanese opera, and between them are all sort of skilled either acrobats, martial artists, or both. So the film opens, and we as an audience already join something sort of right in the middle. We see this dying master who feels that the poison clan that he belongs to might be a danger to the public. So something's already happened. You're already sort of in the middle of something. Like, this clan's already established, the master's sort of dying. You're sort of joining the film sort of after sort of training has happened and like the whole premise has been set up. So we as an audience are joining this sort of as it's happening. It's not starting up right at the beginning. We're joining the action sort of right in the middle of this story. His new student, who is like he's telling this to, is looking after him and only been teaching this his new student for 3 years. He tells him about the other students who were part of the school. So it's that sense of something that's, like I mentioned, has already happened. We have no idea who these people are, but they have all been sort of trained up within the Poison Clan. And like I mentioned, it just adds that element of mystery, like when he's showing him around the school at the start of the film, like where they train, where everything's covered in cobwebs, like the Venom mob, like the Venom crew were once there. That's where they were training, but we haven't met them yet. We haven't met these guys yet, but they were once there training up in the ways of sort of the Poison Clan, their different styles. It establishes so much about them, even in just that initial phase. So we were introduced like sort of in flashback to them all practicing and like the different styles, Centipede smashing like sort of loads of falling plates. I'm not sure exactly where these plates are coming from. They just seem to have an unlimited amount of plates falling from the ceiling. So I'm not quite sure where they come from. But just loads of plates falling from the ceiling. We have Snake and Scorpion 2, Toad and Lizards, and we learned that the pupils 1 and 2 knew each other, as did 4 and 5, but neither of them sort of met pupil number 3. It does get a bit, if I'm like where I'm talking about the film and the plot, it might get a bit confusing if you haven't seen the movie. I'm sure many of you have. If you're looking, if you're watching a 5 Venoms review, you probably have seen 5 Venoms. The newest student, played by Sheng, has an overview of all styles, but he's not proficient in just one style. And so, in order to defeat another member of the Venom mob of the Venom clan, he would have to team up with somebody else because he's good, he's proficient enough, but he's no expert in all styles. Sort of like he has an overview of the styles here, but he's not exactly a master in any of them. So the master wants them all to be good and wants one of their one of the masters of the clan is quite wealthy to donate the clan's money to charities. So it's up to our lead here to find out about the Venoms and the money and make sure it's used and going to the right place. And then our film sort of begins. You get this setup and then the film actually begins. So, and that's what's great about it. It's not, you get this whole backstory before the film even starts, and then he's on a quest to sort of find the other members of the clan, make sure they're doing the right thing. There's another master with money and they wants to make sure it's donated to the right thing, because their master, the one who's done it start, he sort of had a change of heart. He knows the clan's done bad stuff over the years, and in his dying state, he wants to make sure that he's rectified that he does correct his mistakes later on. So as I say, then the film sort of begins. It sort of, in a way, starts again. What is great about that opening scene is, like I say, it just establishes the setup so well. Like everything sets everything up for the film that follows, and it's brilliantly done. It really is brilliantly done, that opening sort of, like I say, where you're seeing the Venoms training and you're just getting used to sort of the setup and the premise. So the Lizard, played by Kwok, is now a policeman, and he knows the Toad, and they sort of train together, and both looking for this wealthy master. And Centipede is working with Snake to find the money too. I mean, they're sort of the villains of the film. Like Snake and Centipede are sort of that's Wei Pei. They're the antagonists, you could argue. They are sort of the main villains in the movie. The whole time you have no idea. The whole time throughout the film, like, you know who Centipede and Snake is, you know who Toad and Lizard are, but you don't know who Scorpion is, right? This is the whole thing. There's still that mystery even to the end. I mean, you do still clock on sort of quite early on, but it's not revealed outright who the Scorpion is. So there is that air of mystery there. And then you have to love how Sheng gets a lead right away. Like, he's only been looking around the town for a short while, and already he's got a lead onto who one of the clan might be, and he's straight away sort of suspicious of the right person. He doesn't really have to do much in the way of detective work or hunting to find out, to get to the bottom of the case. It doesn't take him long to sort of establish who one of the members of the clan sort of is. He's already, like I say, he's already on the case within a matter of seconds. So they find the master, who is pretending to be a poor scholar. Centipede and Snake ambush his place and want his money. And like I say, I love this movie because there's a real sense that the story and conspiracy is coming first before anything else, which is a novel change. It's that is coming first before any of the action, before any of the set pieces. That the whole premise of the film is very much front and centre, which is, I think, like I say, a novel change, and really is why it works. Centipede ends up killing the master guy, to which the Scorpion comes to investigate after they have left. And I say the Scorpion is masked at this point. They have no idea who he is. So after they've left, and he finds this map that was hidden in a candle, sort of to where the sort of the treasure is, sort of the money is, and things like that. So the police have like 10 days to solve this case after this guy's been murdered, right? So they have a bit of a somewhat ultimatum, their police. It's like they either solve the case or they get whipped. I mean, that's one way to make sure that your staff do get the job done, I suppose. Like, if you don't do it, you're going to get whipped. So I mean, that's one way to make sure that your employees are actually getting on with what they're meant to be doing. So there was also a witness who saw the centipede leaving the house where the murder was. So they realise he is a friend of the snakes, who is like the snake guy. Wei-Pei is sort of well connected about town. He's sort of established. He's rich. He's sort of well known. So in like a lot of people's eyes around the township, he can do no wrong. He's not an evil guy. He's quite high up, like socially. So the Toad teams up with the police to try and apprehend the centipede, as he's been identified as a murderer. We get a nice fight, but it's not too long. In many ways, if anything, it's sort of downplayed, actually, sort of the kung fu and fights in this film. It is sort of downplayed. It is done sort of subtly. It's not sort of a long, grand fight scene. The Venoms do really show off in Crippled Avengers, but this film is very different. I say Crippled Avengers, there's a hell of a lot more fighting, a hell of a lot more acrobatics. In this film, it is all in a way sort of downplayed. It's not 100% in fifth gear go all the time. Like, it is dialed back a little bit. It is really the story that comes first, as I mentioned. So the snake wants to pay off the judge and intimidates him. A witness here into sort of changing his mind about who it was he saw into somebody else. He kept on saying he had a beard, and then they end up framing the Toad, saying he didn't have a beard because they've sort of got to him. They've corrupted the witness. Toad agrees. I mean, Toad gets apprehended and he agrees to go along on the basis he'll get a fair trial. And believe you me, Toad does not get a fair trial at all. This whole time, our lead Sheng is very much just observing. Philip Kwok from the Venoms, he was always sort of the lead in some of the films. Chang here, you could argue, is a bit of our lead, sharing it with Philip Kwok. And like I said, the whole time he's sort of observing and watching this as an outsider, much like we are as an audience. He's trying to figure out what's going on as well. So we're sort of watching the whole thing develop through his eyes as well as our own. So Toad gets set up, and they use the Iron Maiden on him in order so that he can so they can penetrate his skin, because the Toad's got really tough skin, right? That's his gimmick. His skin is sort of, you can't break through it, it's impenetrable. This doesn't work, and it's how can we torture him more? And they use this iron coat. I mean, the Toad in this really doesn't have a lot of luck. Toad really does get the short end of the stick here. Iron coat is like an iron vest that has been heated up and then placed on his back. And I say before this, he had the Iron Maiden as well. And along with that sense of mystery and kung fu, we also get that sense of corruption. That's another thing that runs through this film. Corrupt, if you're well up and you've got enough money, you can sort of pay off the police and just get anything you want. And, so such is the way of the world. I mean, the film is quite brutal at times, like when Snake and Centipede kill the witness by placing a hook down his throat, and it's quite a painful scene that really does make me sort of wince when I watch it. And also worth mentioning that, like I mentioned earlier, for a kung fu movie, there isn't really all that much kung fu in it. In that sense, there isn't a fight I mentioned every 10 minutes, which I think aids the film rather than impedes it. I think that works with the movie rather than sort of setting it back in any way. But it's still, don't get me wrong, it is still a kung fu movie in every sense of the word. Also, the way Toad dies by getting suffocated with sheets of paper is quite barbaric too, as they sort of want to frame it as a suicide. The lizard at this point has been sent away, Philip Kwok, on an errand just to get, basically they want him out of the picture. They're just trying to get him because they know he's a good cop, he's suspicious, so they sort of send him away, just sort of this meaningless errand, so they just get him out of the picture so they can get rid of the Toad and sort of cover up their tracks, because they don't want Philip Kwok sort of snooping around. Like I say, Philip Kwok is very much our hero along with Sheng. Then we have another scene where someone gets a needle up the nose. Again, as I say, pretty gruesome stuff here. There's quite some brutal sort of torture in this movie. So Lizard returns and can't believe like Toad is dead, and it's like as he apparently killed himself. And this is when like Lizard starts to get suspicious. He's like, wait a minute, like what is going on here? This shouldn't have happened. Within like he gets suspicious of like somebody within the ranks, within the police, that especially his chief constable. So up to this point it's been all calm, collected and level-headed, but he goes into like Philip Kwok goes into a tea house and just drinks loads of wine from this huge vessel, just basically absolutely livid, and gets information about what really happened from these informants that he knows. And it's a great scene this moment. We're alone with Kwok, and I want to know, why on earth, that would they use an Iron Maiden? He has informants, and he's just absolutely fuming at this point. So the last pupil introduced himself to Lizard, and they sort of combine stories. It can get a little confusing, even for Kung Fu standards, but it is pretty, by and large, straightforward. I love how Snake at one point says to number 3 he is sick of the killings, to Scorpion. He's sick of the killings, that it's hurting his conscience. Even though it was him that sort of suggested the Iron Maiden in the first place, Snake's got to make his mind up. He's like, look, we can't keep doing this. Well, it was you that thought, let's get the Iron Maiden. Wei Pei, figure it out. What do you want? Talk about double standards. So the chief constable randomly quits his job along with Lizard to go and take on Snake and Centipede. All this time unaware that the Scorpion, all the times that the Scorpion has the map. What is great with the Lizard style, it enables Chang to film some very subtle but very impressive wire work with the movements involved. It's a real shame that the Toad wasn't in the finale, as it would have been great to see all the Venoms at the end where they're all together. But I say the Toad gets killed about 2/3 of the way through the movie, so it's a shame with that finale that they're all not there, getting a chance to show their stuff. I guess one of them had to die. I suppose you had to have one of the Venom mob dying in the movie. And I love when the fight breaks out. Scorpion is just standing there. At this point, it's been revealed who he is. Like the Chief Constable Philip Kwok's sort of superior, sort of was the Scorpion all along. And when it starts, he's just doing nothing, even though he's meant to be on Lizard's side and there to help. So the truth all comes out in the end with the fight, and it's like a 3 versus 2 sort of showdown, which is very unique, and it's probably the most kung fu you get in the whole movie at this point. But I think that's why it's so beloved. As I say, the film is such a slow build, and I think that really does work with the mystery and intrigue of 5 Venoms, that it is a slow build. It doesn't, and Chang's more than up for taking his time with this movie. He's more than up for just, look, I don't necessarily need to have a fight scene every 2 seconds. I think it's that element, like I say, of mystery and the sense of there's 5 Venoms and you're not really sure who's who, and like you got 2 guys that are good, 2 that are bad, 1 in the middle, you're not quite sure who is. Like I said, Chang the whole time trying to find the good guys, not sure who to trust. So it all does work and comes together really nicely. Snake kills Scorpion, Scorpion kills Snake, our heroes get the map back and go on to use the money to pay off the clan's crime, and that's sort of really the end of 5 Venoms in a nutshell. Like with all my reviews, I do try and get through the plot somewhat quick, sort of gloss over it, as it were. There isn't really much to be said about it. I mean, just go and watch it. I mean, this is the only advice I can give to you. If you've never seen 5 Venoms, if you want to watch a great kung fu movie, watch 5 Venoms. Like I said, but just don't expect the generic sort of "you killed my master" kind of thing, or there's no training scenes in this. I mean, there's a bit of training at the beginning where you see the Venoms sort of practicing their different styles, but there's no sort of the master teaching the student long sort of montages or anything like that. I mean, I like watching this film dubbed, only because that's how I remember watching it. I always usually tend to watch my films with the original language, but this is how I remember watching this movie when it was dubbed, and that classic Shaw Brothers dub that we all know. But if you haven't seen 5 Venoms, please go and check it out, because you will not be disappointed. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you soon.